Raja.
No, I just want to comment that, of course, I would love to be Italian today and tomorrow French and after tomorrow Spanish and next week Brazilian. I mean, this evolution of the identity, it's for sure for people who are living and who has everything available, who have everything, you know, normal life and I hope that, and quality of life. Also. But when we want to speak about myself, I mean, I wouldn't be here if I'm an Italian. I'm Palestinian, that's why I'm here. And the whole issue of identity for us, it's the struggle. It's, I mean, we cannot say it's not important. We are imprisoned with this identity. For sure, everybody, all the Palestinians are exhausted of this issue. But at the same time, this is the struggle. I mean, to determine, to say that we are existing because of this identity. So it depends. I mean, it depends the situation and from where you're speaking, what's your reality. Because also there is a reality. I mean, that today, okay, I can feel I will enjoy this week in Italy and I feel like I might feel that I'm Italian. But I mean, the day on Friday morning when I go back to Tel Aviv airport, for sure I will not be Italian. I'll be Palestinian with all the security checks. Thank you.
Merci. J'ai été vraiment passionné par les 5 interventions qui m'ont énormément nourri. Je voudrais intervenir sur un point particulier transversal qui est celui de la paranoïa sociale. Parce que tout le monde, plus ou moins, a parlé de cette chose horrible, en quelque sorte, que pour tel homme ou tel groupe d'hommes, l'autre va devenir dangereux. Et comme il est dangereux, je vais me défendre, je vais l'attaquer. Il en a même parlé d'apartheid, ce qui est un mot extraordinairement fort, etc. Alors, en tant que psychiatre, je dis bien en tant que psychiatre, je voudrais amener une contribution. D'abord, en partant d'un des tableaux que nous a montré Stefano Allovio, un des beaux tableaux où il était écrit en français « La pauvreté rend égoïste ». La pauvreté rend égoïste. Alors d'abord, je voudrais dire que le peintre a été cynique. En réalité, la pauvreté ne rend pas égoïste, la pauvreté rend solidaire. C'est la mauvaise précarité qui rend égoïste. C'est-à-dire le fait de se sentir dans une insécurité sociale fait qu'on entre, alors comme disait quelqu'un hier, dans un début de syndrome d'auto-exclusion. Et alors, il y avait tous ces animaux qui étaient ses prochains, qui lui demandaient à manger, et il gardait sa nourriture pour lui, il se coupait d'autrui. Bon, alors, ce qu'il faut savoir, c'est que lorsqu'on se sent attaqué dans son identité, parce qu'on n'a pas parlé ce matin de la souffrance identitaire, il y a des moments donnés où les identités fixées se mettent à souffrir. Et à ce moment-là, une des manières de réagir, c'est de dire, d'avoir une identité par opposition, l'autre me veut du mal, l'autre est méchant. Je pense qu'en France, nous avons fait une énorme erreur quand nous avons diabolisé les électeurs du Front National. Au lieu de voir qu'au tout début, ils étaient dans des identités souffrantes, mais je ne suis plus un vrai Français, je suis contaminé par les étrangers, qu'est-ce que je vais devenir, comment je vais élever mes enfants, les usines sont en train de fermer, la mondialisation, on a dit c'est le diable. En réalité, ils utilisaient des mécanismes de défense diaboliques, effectivement, qui étaient l'autre est méchant, etc. Alors, je ne dis pas qu'il y a des problèmes de combat politique quand on entre dans la paranoïa sociale. Je dis simplement qu'il faut aussi comprendre, mais comprendre ne veut pas dire tout accepter, que celui qui rentre dans la paranoïa sociale, c'est parce qu'il est fou de peur de perdre ses points de repère, et que peut-être les hommes politiques et les chercheurs n'ont pas à en rajouter à la paranoïa sociale. Et ce qui est fait en France, en tout cas, les hommes politiques en rajoutent à la paranoïa sociale. Comment essayer, en quelque sorte, de rassurer les citoyens sans passer par la paranoïa sociale. Moi, je pense que c'est un enjeu, parce que sinon, on est dans les grands sentiments, il y a les méchants, il y a les bons, il faut se battre. Alors oui, il faut se battre, mais rien n'interdit de comprendre les processus de paranoïa sociale, qui sont des processus de défense très dangereux, mais des processus de défense d'une identité blessée. Et personnellement, moi, je me sens autant chercheur pour vis-à-vis des étrangers sans papier, des SDF sans papier, des chômeurs, que de ceux qui, pour des motifs psychologiques, se mettent à se couper d'autrui et en même temps d'eux-mêmes, ce qui est extrêmement dangereux. C'est-à-dire, je voudrais être un chercheur qui intègre également ceux qui sont méchants. Du point de vue de la compréhension, pas du point de vue politique, du point de vue de la compréhension. Voilà ce que je voulais ajouter.
Merci, grazie. Utile riflessione questa di Jean Furtos. Credo che il buon governo, cos'è il malgoverno? Nella nostra ipotesi SUC, il malgoverno è l'utilizzazione strumentale della paranoia sociale. Cioè il malgoverno è, al posto di accettare e dialogare con le sfide che vengono dalle popolazioni vulnerabili, dall'immigrazione, dai comportamenti incomprensibili, questo è il buon governo, aprire un tavolo di concertazione con le contraddizioni, e il malgoverno è bene, io costruisco un asset politico a partire dalla paranoia sociale, costruisco i voti, costruisco il consenso usando la paranoia sociale invece che, come dire, diluendola nella ragionevolezza e nella costruzione della comunità consensuale. Quindi grazie di questa riflessione. L'ultima riflessione di Alan Rosen. You have the floor, please.
Thank you, Benedetto. I see lots of connections in this very moving session today. I think what Stefanos was saying about the mutual aid organisations is very related, parallel to some of the issues for Indigenous and Aboriginal people in Australia, where they also see the importance of events like funerals, and that they need to have enough money for at least their cars are held together with wire. They know how to hold the cars together with wire, and they need fuel because they travel great distances to get to culturally important events. So the issue about traditional funerals never goes away, no matter how much they are now integrated in the mobile society of having cars. But they also need to get to Australian Football League football matches, because that's the other glue that holds these communities together and gets them to socialise and while competing on a friendly basis with each other, sometimes not so friendly, but it is, these are both the contemporary and the traditional social and cultural glue of these communities. And I think this also leads to this, where this mutual aid organisations help to recreate culture out of disorder. And I think it relates to what Fiorenzo was saying about rules are meant to be breached. How I learnt it was that laws are meant to be broken, rules are meant to be bent, and guidelines are meant to be interpreted. Yes, watch out for WHO and all the guidelines. But the main issue I think this connects with is Victor Turner and liminality. When you can break the rules, my understanding, much more naive than Stefano's obviously, is that Victor Turner and his followers have been talking about the importance of having liminality states where you can break the rules and where you can create new order, a new identity, and this sometimes occurs out of struggle. Which brings me to Raisha, and I think the importance of the concept of Sumud, I think a very powerful and a very important concept. And I'm my understanding is that resilience is under attack even in Western countries about the issue about how resilient studies are usually about deprived populations or in somehow damaged populations. And it comes back to the Eve Tuck point yesterday about importance to look at from the angle of desire and aspiration, not to look at the angle of these communities being damaged, and that's why we do resilience studies, that's why we do trauma interventions. But resilience, words can be reclaimed, and resilience is a good word in terms of what it really means, which is bounce back ability to bounce back, buoyancy, that sort of strength to bounce back in aversive circumstances. And I think Raisha also mentioned a lot of very important characteristics like invisibility and threat of elimination. And what you implied in a couple of your statements, but did not quite spell out, was how important uncertainty is. That I see as a psychiatrist with asylum seekers who are Palestinian and Hazara, in helping them we have a pro bono network that helps them with their case to stay in Australia and to get refugee status. And the overwhelming theme is the uncertainty of knowing what their fate will be. And they know in the long run that they will get refugee status because 85% of people do. But why do we have to have all that uncertainty of detention before that? It brings to mind, why do we have to have all that uncertainty of the conflict between in the Middle East when we all know there has to be a solution that will provide legitimacy of statehood for both. And I think that's one of the issues that both identities are threatened, that both have been traumatised populations and both feel that their legitimacy is under threat on a worldwide basis. So that leads to defiance, and I think that's a much better term than using resistance in a clinical sense. I think we should be talking about spirited populations, and I think the issue of struggle is really well taken, and I think very important. And I think the pathologising issue is so important, and I think that's why in our clinical professions we really need to not only diagnose and treat people, we need to have the skills to do what I call undoing. Some people call undiagnosing, but undoing is more than undiagnosing, it's untreating. We know how to start a diagnosis, and that starts a train of treating. We need to know how to untreat, how to unravel what we have started, how to not start that in the first place, and deal with the real issues as they exist and acknowledge their reality and their legitimacy.
Thank you for calling for intelligent undoing. Grazie, abbiamo imparato tantissimo da voi, abbiamo potuto pensare, è stata una bellissima mattina.